In any hobby, a flagship purchase can be quite enticing due to the idea of achieving endgame. That end-all be-all component can oftentimes cost thousands of dollars, with some buyers ready and willing to spend that amount of money. For some, they can often be satisfied by a lower or more mid-tier focused purchase. For the latter, I would say DITA Project M creates a very compelling case for that argument. Let's talk about why. Hey folks, I'm Matthew, and today we're going to be talking about an IEM that's had my attention since I first heard it at CanJam New York City. Some of you may have caught my impressions on hifi, where I just detailed my enthusiasm about Project M and the incredible value it presents at $325. So now having it here at Bloom, I've been super excited to talk about it. So without further ado, let's get into build and design. We'll move on to sound and of course finish up with a comparison. Project M's transparent and clear finish, allowing you to see the inner workings of the IEM, is just simply gorgeous. I think it's both striking and unique in its design, and in the $300 price range, Project M doesn't really have much competition here in terms of aesthetic. When compared to other IEMs, I think DITA Project M just does a great job of standing out and really separating itself from the crowd. DITA continues Project M's great aesthetic here with the choice of cable as well. I think it both looks and feels really good and gets a huge bonus for the modular system. Having access to both 3.5 and 4.4 makes for easy source swapping and gives you that balanced connection for just a little bit more power. DITA also included a travel case here that was sourced from a company in Germany, which I thought was pretty cool. I believe it's called Sustainer, and it's a nice looking case. It feels good. I think we actually broke the locking mechanism as soon as we opened it, so I guess my only gripe would be there. Opens just as easy locked as it does unlocked. So there's that to take note of. We finish off our accessories here with the included final ear tips. They have a white color to them, which just continues. Great colorway, great aesthetic from DITA. I think it was a nice touch. I didn't use them for my listening. I used SpinFit Omni primarily, a little bit of W1 and Elitech Baroque as well. Project M has a 32 ohm impedance and 107 dB sensitivity. At CanJam New York City, I had no problems just driving it off my Apple dongle. It was totally fine, reached comfortable listening volumes, but here at the office, I ended up opting to go for the 4.4 balanced connection and using my usual sources like the SR35, my Questyle M15, and even DITA's own navigator. I found that it really just benefited from that extra power and really scaled well. As a whole, Project M just has a great aesthetic to me. I think it looks fantastic. The included accessories were a nice touch as well. So with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about sound. Real quick, I just want to touch on objective sound, and this was a graph provided from a user on hifi named Basking Shark. He actually had a fantastic write-up on Project M, and I highly encourage you to check that out. It's going to be linked in the description as well as his profile. He's got a lot of great write-ups, so definitely go check his stuff out. And thanks again, Basking Shark, for letting me use your graph. Really appreciate it. Alrighty, so looking this here on my phone, starting off with the sub bass, you can tell it's a little bit emphasized here. I just want to get one thing out of the way. This is not a bass head IEM. If you're looking for that, it's just not this. So that's one thing. Really just keep in mind there. Moving into the mids, you see that emphasis in the upper mids. This brings vocals pretty well forward, but I don't think they're shouty or shrill really at all. I actually think they have really nice presence, really great clarity, and really just make for an engaging listen. I love vocals personally a lot in the mix, so this really just struck the right chord with me. I think it sounds great, and of course we'll touch a little bit more on that in the subjective impressions. Moving into the treble, you see that you do get some pretty great air, some good extension, and just really good presence here. I think the treble and mids are definitely the key highlight in the sound signature for Project M, with the bass just kind of filling everything together. If you are a little bit treble sensitive, I will say Project M probably could be a touch bright. Sometimes I'd even smooth it out a little bit with the TA66 from X-Duo. Shout out that amp, literally rules and lives on my desk. I don't think it's left my desk since we got the demo, but again, if you just want to round this treble peak out with a warmer source, I highly encourage you to do that. I think it sounds fantastic on a tube amp or just warmer sources in general. So something to keep in mind there. Moving into subjective impressions, again, the bass is not the show-stopping characteristic here. It's not going to blow you away. I think it has proper sub-bass extension and overall presence. It adds a nice thump to the mix that really just makes it a fun and engaging listen. I don't think it's going to blow anyone away or really captivate them the second they listen to it. But the more you listen to Project M, I think the more you start to really like that bass and low end. Now in the mids, you get really great body to all instruments presented. You get this pitch black background that just presents them in a very full and rich way. I think the tonality in the mids is just simply superb. Moving into the vocals, like I said, they are a little bit more forward, a little bit more emphasized in the mix, which I thought was fantastic for rock. I thought even for some pop. I love Tame Impala. Listening to his tracks on Project M was just very engaging, and I just really fell in love with how vocals are presented on this IEM. I would definitely say that is easily my favorite part of Project M. And for those who have always liked vocals but found a lot of IEMs to be too forward in that regard, too shouty, and making vocals just shrill, I think Project M really nails it here. Moving into the treble, Project M presents its high-end frequencies in such a rich and resolving way that I really just couldn't get enough of it. I found myself listening to more and more treble-intense tracks just to really push its limits, and I never found, like, to my ears, it ever got sibilant, it ever crossed that line. I thought it just hit that perfect amount of resolution, that perfect amount of extension each and every time. And outside of maybe the Elysion Pilgrim, I don't think in this price bracket I've heard a better treble response, and I really do just want to emphasize how good it is up top. Now moving to soundstage and imaging, I don't want to say Project M is super wide or, super three-dimensional. It's really just not that. It has nice width to its downstage. I do think its imaging is good. Nice separation in between instruments. Overall, still just didn't really blow me away. It doesn't have that needle moving characteristic to it. I think its vertical imaging is actually pretty good and kind of reminds me a little bit of Perpetua, which is DITA's flagship offering at $3,000, which was pretty cool hearing those back to back. But yeah, Project M isn't really just going to blow you away in that regard, but I do think it holds its own there in sound staging and imaging. Finishing up in subjective sound, I want to pit it up against a pretty popular IEM within this price bracket, Moondrop Blessing 3. Let's see how they fare against each other. So the reason for this comparison, I found the driver, config, and price tag to be the two motivating choices for this comparison. Moondrop Blessing 3 has the 2 dynamic drivers and 4 balanced armatures compared to Project M's 1 dynamic driver and 1 balanced armature. Similar config there, and of course with the price of Project M being $325, Blessing 3 being $319, we have a really nice close matchup here. I think Project M does offer slightly more in terms of aesthetic and unboxing experience. You get that modular cable. I think the look and feel of Project M is just more premium than Blessing 3. Blessing 3 does have a nice look to it. The faceplate is pretty eye-catching, but I did find it to develop a lot of scratches and just general looks of wear over our few months of having a demo unit. So just something to keep in mind there. But I do think Project M gets the W here. In terms of fit and comfort, I don't think there's a clear winner here. Both of them sealed fine with me. I know people have expressed some sizing issues with Moondrop nozzles in general. Again, standard tips of use, SpinFit Omni, L-Tech Baroque, and SpinFit W1. Those are my go-to choice of tips, and I thought they just did a great job of sealing, and I always had good extended hours of comfort between both IEMs. Now for the sound, I will say that the biggest discrepancy will have to be in the bass. I think that extra dynamic driver with the Blessing 3 really produces a fast, attacking, and snappy bass. I think when you compare it to Project M's slightly sub-bass emphasized low end, You just see that Blessing 3 really just outpaces Project M in this regard. I think Project M does a good job of keeping up in terms of total quality of bass, but quantitatively, Blessing 3 really just separates from the pack here and just creates a really fun bass. I think Blessing 3's bass is absolutely fantastic, where Project M's is good and gets a job done, but when compared, Blessing 3 takes the W here. As for the mid-range, this is a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I think in terms of raw resolution, they are definitely on the same page here, and the overall timbre between the two is just simply excellent. If I had to choose, I'd most likely go with Project M's. I think it really just has this rich, resolving feel to it that I think is really good. Those more forward vocals really just make that difference there. Again, between the two, the overall timbre and cohesiveness of the mid-range, I think both of them are just simply excellent. So you really can't go wrong in this regard. As for treble, we gotta be honest here, I don't really think it's close. Project M is just super resolving, very transparent, and extremely clean and well extended. Blessing 3 does a good job in terms of treble resolution, and I do think it has a good amount to give there, but when compared, Project M just gave me a treble that was almost just addictive, and maybe Blessings 3 could be slightly more digestible at times, but I just think Project M really stole my heart in this regard, and that treble response to me is just much better in Project M than it is in Blessing 3. As for soundstage and imaging, this one's a little bit of a toss-up. I couldn't really declare a clear winner. I think both of them present a pretty well-extended, well-separated stage, so in my listening session, I didn't have a clear winner. Maybe to other people, it's more obvious, but to me, I just thought both were good and, pretty precise in this regard. Well, what did we learn? The quick and easy. As for bass, I would say Blessing 3 gets the victory there. A little bit more extended, a little bit faster attacking. For the mids, I thought Blessing 3 kept up for the most part, but I will say Project M really takes it there and just adds a sense of body and weight to the instruments that I thought Blessing 3 somewhat lacked, but I will say the timbre between the two was both really good. Project M would get my side here, but I do think Blessing 3 presents a pretty good mid-range. In the treble, not going to re-emphasize this anymore. I thought Project M was just much better and just simply outclassed Blessing 3 in this regard. So in total, I will say that for bass heads, I'd probably recommend the Blessing 3. I think you're going to get a better, more complete sound signature there that's probably going to appease your taste a little bit more. But for the more thoughtful and discerning listener who wants that macro and micro level detail retrieval, I will say Project M is probably best suited for you, and I would go that way when compared between the two. I gave Project M a very daunting ask, to be an end-all be-all, a final say for a lower or more mid-tier focused buyer. Does it do that? I think it does. I think it has a very compelling case, both through its extremely balanced and thoughtful sound, as well as its very captivating aesthetic. If you're looking for simply just a new flavor in your collection of IEMs, Project M does that incredibly well, but if you're just looking for something that's complete and can really offer you so much at its price tag, Project M does a great job of that as well. Thanks for watching. You can check out Project M and a lot of other great products at bloomaudio.com. If you have any questions about Project M or any of the other great products we carry, please feel free to reach out at hello@bloomaudio.com or just hit us up on our live chat. We're happy to chat with you further there. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be back soon with more high-fidelity audio content.